Hi there, this is Bravo 1, Bravo Team Airsoft, and today I'm going to do a video on the 44th Medical Brigade, which is something I've been doing on and off for a while. It's been sort of like a secondary hobby of things I've been doing, slowly buying the odd piece over a long extension of months, and I've more or less kind of got it filled. So basically the first thing I'm going to go over, because it seems that some of my videos are starting to circulate a bit more and they're going a bit beyond the Airsoft community, which is mainly what these videos are meant for. So I've had like various messages or comments about a lot of stuff, which I'm just going to answer now to save myself from typing it in the comments of every videos. This is not a studio. I do not have a crew of people helping me do these. It's not scripted. My knowledge is limited. It's what I'm learning as I'm going through. I read the books, documentaries, I see films, and I Google things, and that's where I get my information from. A lot of it's probably not going to be accurate, or it's something I've just learned, or there's more to the story of what I've just learned. I am what I'd refer to as an amateur historian when it comes to this type of stuff. So there is things I am going to get wrong, which I can hold my hands up and say I will get things wrong. There's some things that I haven't figured out yet, or I haven't learned. There's obviously, as you know, the war went on for a long time, and there's a lot to learn about it. And a lot of the kit was used, you know, from like World War I, World War II era kit, right up until 1972, 1973, even after that. For this case, the South Vietnamese and the NBA and the VC. So basically, yes. So I'm just going to clarify that this is not something that's a big organisation. It's simply just me doing what I have. I do not get paid for these videos, so they're clearly just for the sake of the Airsoft community, showing people what I've built and why and how to do it, or where to get things from, so that if anyone else within the Vietnam Airsoft community, as this video is mostly based for, knows where to get the kit from. As far as like reenactors, historians and collectors going, I can see them getting a bit sour over some of this stuff, because it's not all genuine stuff. It's not. I mean, some of the kit, it's a mixture of real kit and reproduction kit, depending on what I can afford at the time and what I find. I'm not willing to spend £400 or £500 on a third pattern jungle shirt and trousers because it was used in Vietnam, like some of the reenactors. I will buy the repro version. I will get the real version if I can get it cheap enough for what it is. Like some of the kit that I do have is relatively cheaper, and I've thought, yeah, I'll pay for it as that. But some of it is just daft, and I'm not going to go at that level. I'm not a reenactor, and for what I have, I don't really know if I'd ever want to do reenacting. I've always done Vietnam Airsoft reenacting through the milsims and the Airsoft community, and I enjoy that. So the reenactors that I do know of that have done it can say that sometimes it can get quite toxic in the reenactment community itself, as of phase of sex, race, weight, age, where people get a bit tedious, and that's not even talking about the kit. Of it, oh, it's not right kit and it's not real kit and this, that and the other. I really can't bother with that sort of stuff. Now, in the 5 years I've done the Vietnam Airsoft scene, I have never encountered anyone like that. I have got on with everyone, and I've gotten really good friends with a lot of people. Some of them are reenactors, and I'm not saying that all reenactors are them kind of people, which is certainly not, but it sounds like there is a few people that are like that, and it's just off-putting. So I've never really done the proper Vietnam reenactments for that reason. But in the 5 years I've done Vietnam Airsoft, I've gained some really good friends. I've really enjoyed it, and the event seems to get better for me every year that I do them, along with the rest of my group, the people that don't want to do these videos, that are a part of them, and they're a part of the same company, and some of the kits, theirs or been theirs, or they've had ideas and inputs on what to put in these videos. They just don't want to be in the spotlight of the film for the same reason that people are sending comments about kit not being right, or there's no dates, and I've had various different things. So I just want to clear that up now, that I'm not a proper reenactor, I'm not some history expert. My kit's a mixture of Airsoft and real kit. It's primarily, these videos are done for the Vietnam Airsoft community. So if you're getting sour about kit being wrong or some other thing like that, then just remember that it's a locally done thing throughout the Airsoft community, and it's done with what I have. The only reason I do these videos is because people ask me to do these videos because of the large collection I have, and I like to promote the sport and the hobby of Vietnam in Airsoft. The camera is not, it's not £1,000 camera, it's not some really expensive thing. I do it solely on a phone because that's what I have. I'm not going out and buying a lot of camera, because I said this is not a studio thing. I don't have speakers and microphones and all that stuff. I don't get funded for it, so I'm not going to go out and do all that sort of stuff. So I simply do these on the videos. So right now I've cleared up all that sort of stuff. I'm going to go over what I've got now for this video and why. So basically, most of this video is actually a genuine kit video as well. The majority of this stuff I'm about to show you is actually real stuff. Like what we were just saying earlier, where it's a mixture of mostly reproduction and what have you. This is all real stuff because I've happened to find it at an affordable price. So basically, this is for the 44th Medical Brigade. Now, the reason I have this kit is because my son's mother, she started doing this many years ago with the rest of us when we first started the group 5 years ago. Obviously, women in Vietnam, you can't expect them to go with Rangers and Lurks. It's not like how it is today, where they can get into a lot of these units. This was a time of the 60s and 70s where the equality is just starting to branch out, and that people have got more rights and doing more jobs that they weren't doing, say, in the 40s or the 50s. So as we know, a lot of nurses, estimated 5,000 to 10,000 female soldiers within the nursing community amongst, the different forces were actually involved in Vietnam. So if you are a female and you're doing the Vietnam War, you've got a girlfriend or a wife that's trying to get involved in it, I think that the 44th Medical Brigade and several other detachments of the medics is a good idea to go for that sort of thing, especially if you're doing the milsims and you've got a girlfriend or whatever that likes camping, hiking, which is like what I did. My son's mother is quite an active person for shooting, hiking, that sort of stuff. So that's how she got involved in this sort of stuff. But to sell it reenactment-wise to the milsim, it was a matter of she had to have a reason to have a gun and a kit and why she were there, because obviously she can't play US Marine Corps and other that, that sort of stuff. So we came up with the 44th Medical Brigade. Originally, when the kit was made, it was a bit farby. It was when we were still learning, because this was 5 years ago, where we had the Alice kit and we had a pair of 1980s trousers, which I've just replaced and what have you. It was just a quick makeshift kit. It's just over time that I've learned more and more stuff, and I've learned what was right and what was wrong. I've actually seen documentaries on the 44th Medical Command and stuff to do with the nurses in tow, which has been quite interesting. So I'm going to go over the whole weapons factor, because one, airsoft, you can't really play airsoft without an airsoft gun, so it's a big factor. Now, nurses in Vietnam primarily wasn't armed because they weren't a combat unit. They wasn't required to carry firearms, but from what I've read, seen, and I even have pictures of, they did receive firearms training. So as far as I know of, and I have pictures of these to prove these in case anyone ever argues the debate and says they didn't use guns and they didn't receive firearms training, I actually have documentary proof and photo proof that they had training with the M16A1, the M14 and the 1911 pistol, often in Texas, and then in some occasions, once they was in Vietnam, they got sent to firearms courses again. And the reason for this being, now predominantly most of the nurses transported by helicopter, for obvious reasons. The roads, in the Ford Nuts and the Juicing offices, they were ambushed, they had mines on them, and they were just potential targets, especially in convoys. So a lot of the times the female nurses for the 44th did not travel within convoys. They went through helicopters for obvious reasons. But on occasion it was known that they would, for whatever reason, I can't specify, but from the documentaries I've watched and stuff, this is what I've heard, they did on occasion get transferred in the Ford Mutts or within the, whatever vehicles I suppose was available, the Juicing Half trucks and several other things. So for that reason, in the transport, they was required to wear flak vests, helmets and carry firearms in order to defend themselves. One of the stories I had, it said a woman, she'd been transferred to some local village with a bunch of military police blokes, and she was on the back of a Ford Mutt, and they got ambushed. A sniper started taking pot shots at the car. They asked the medic to take her M16 and fire at a tree line where this supposed sniper was, and she did engage him, and she could have possibly killed the sniper. In the actions of this, she could have shot the sniper. So it has been recorded that it's limited, it's not a common thing, but they did use firearms and they were required to use them in self-defense movements to and from transport. And I suppose there's probably been small bases and what have you where they've been required to defend themselves under them circumstances, which is, a good ground enough for me for the airsoft field of women doing this kind of thing. It's not, I know there's not a lot of women doing it. I've known a couple. We've had a couple within our group over the years that have done airsoft, but airsoft Vietnam, it's even rarer, but I have known a few women to do it. So that's why I thought I'd do this video. So for the firearms stake of the 44th Medical Division kit that I've got in this video, as an example, I'm going to use the Car-15 prototype. I believe this had a real name. It was like the X0604 or something. You'll have to forgive me on this. I do know the name, but I've recently forgot it because we just call it Car-15 prototype in the group. So yeah, it does have a real name. It was the version before the XM177 with a retractable stock, the one I know and love, which I've done in like the majority of my videos. It's the one before that. It is really good, but I cannot remember the specific name of it. It could be a Colt 604 or something along them lines, but I could be wrong. My memory's a bit vague with this because I don't call it that. But that's its original name. Now this is a GMP version. It's pretty old. It's got all the original trades on it. I've been told that most of the new versions don't have trades on anymore. They've removed them all off, and they're just basically got a bit more value to me now knowing that. It is quite heavy for the size of it. It's quite heavy. I don't say it's a smaller version of an M16A1. Now, my son's mother originally did actually use an M16A1, but on occasion she has used this just because it's compact, it's a lot lighter, it's a lot more accurate, and it is really good. I mean, it's GMP and it has a bunch of upgraded internals in it, so it is an absolute beast. It's just not something I overly use very often. I have used it from time to time, but it's not something I commonly use just because I prefer the Car-15 if I'm going to use one. and the stock is a lot heavier. So it's got a retractable stock which flips out on the back. I've changed the flash hider from the original one. It had like a 3-prong flash hider when I first got it. I thought this one looked a bit better. One of the friends that does the reenactment has a real one of these, and he has the flash hider on the back, and I thought that looked better, so I've basically mimicked what he had in real life. So yeah, basically that's what I've gone rifle wise. It's really well built, really sturdy, GMP with trades and everything, so this is a good gun. So just for an example, for the whole Airsoft medic, I thought this would, you know, stand in as a good example, as it's, you know, you're not meant for long range firing and this and the other, so I thought it'd be good as a good defence weapon. And it's a bit more publicity for the cameras. I don't really talk about it much or use it much. So yeah, that's what I'm going to talk for that. Now, second weapon, I've got a sidearm on this. As I stated, some of the medics, probably all the medics, I couldn't tell you without knowing too much, but I do know a lot of them we use, and I have photos of nurses being trained with the 1911s. So my son's mother had a 1911. Originally, I gave her one of my original versions, you know, the black standard 1911 with the wooden grip on it. She weren't really a big fan of them things because it was just common and blunt, and she didn't really like it. So she did want the 1911 from the Titanic, if you've ever seen the Titanic, the one that's got the end, you know, custom one, or maybe Dean's from Supernatural, if you've watched that, where it's the, you know, nickel-plated 1911 engraving with the pearl grip. She wanted one of them. So I got the, I think it's called the Cartel 1911 from WeTech, which is this one. I ended up getting one of these, I polished it over again, and I bought the pearl grips from Texas to basically mimic the same version of the 1911 that you'd seen in the films and that she preferred. I ended up giving it to this as a Christmas present for a couple of years back. However, it was never actually used up until the Arclight Milsim in August, where my 1911 had ran dry. Half the team had been wiped out. I think we had the rifles were either out of ammunition or the batteries had gone, and we were just getting very underarmed. So I ended up having this in one hand and my CO2 1911 over. I think I had about 4 magazines for this. It's stuck in an ammunition box. I was back with a guy from 173rd where our tents were, and we were just firing in every single direction because I think we were the only 2 people left at that point. I got about 4 or 5 people with this. It was really good and really powerful. When I checked the mag after, I think I had about 3 rounds left in it out of the 4 magazines I had. So this is actually a really good gun. See, it's WeTech and I've never really used it. It's more of a showpiece. This is actually a really good piece. So, you know, I was quite surprised with it. Considering I prefer CO2, this was a really nice gun to have. Like I said, I've got a dozen magazines for it, and WeTech magazines are a lot easier to obtain than the CO2 ones, with them being a lot cheaper, because CO2 ones are very expensive. When they do bust, that's the end of it. So basically my son's mother played our medic and she used this. Now this would have been obviously a personally acquired item, being an officer and probably knowing the black markets and what have you. It's plausible why you could have one of these. I'm sure people did have their own personal firearms in Vietnam. I've read certain articles of them carrying Smith & Wesson 29s and Brownings or whatever that they've been sent from home. Or like you say, you could just get on the black market or even as weapon captured. I know of a Arvin Ranger, and I think that was something like the 44th Arvin Ranger Battalion, where a female, they used to call her the Tiger Lady. She had one of these exactly the same, for what I can tell, in a shoulder holster she carried on the hip, and it had a broken ivory grip. So, you know, these were used, and like I said, they're old guns really, so it's very possible. So this is what she uses as a self-defense weapon for a pistol, but it was never actually fired. It was more just carried, and that was about it really, more displayed. She carries this in a shoulder holster, which is, you know, a standard black shoulder holster. I've used this for several other loadouts as of when I've needed it, because my SOG loadout, I have that much gear on my webbing that I can't carry a 1911 holster on my hip, and I prefer it on my hip personally. That's where I prefer to carry it. Because I couldn't, I ended up having this holster, but when I've put the gear away, the shoulder holster's gone onto the chest of this sort of kit. So on top of this, we've got an M1 helmet. This is a genuine real one. It's got all battered and weathered up and everything. Originally she just used a shell, she didn't use a helmet, as if you've worn one of these. You know, these things are really heavy on your head, and you know, I wouldn't like wearing one of these. That's why I do a lot of the unconventional units and special ops and whatever. It's got a Lieutenant Pell on the top of the helmet, and if you can make that out, because again, its camera quality is not overly great. It is filmed on a phone, and the big massive light ahead does dim out the quality a bit, I'm afraid, but this is the best I can do for you. So yeah, basically that's the helmet. As if you're familiar with that, then you know how heavy it is. It's just got the lieutenant marker on the top. It has got a little strap around it. I know not all units did these, but I just think it looks better. It keeps all the helmet tidy and tucked in. So to me it looks a bit more better. It looks a lot cooler. So that's the reason I've put that little bit of elastic around the top. I know a lot of them didn't always do that. It was just something I think looks good. Other than that, we've got the Bony Hat for when the helmet's not being worn. She does actually wear a cap, but she's got the cap with her. I don't have that here. So I've just used for another headgear, because I've seen a lot of nurses wearing these, and then they have the pins in the helmets, so the little nurse badge, the medical brigade badge. So yeah, that's the hat. The next thing I'm going to go over is the clothing. Now these are original OG 107s. Now this is an original nurse's shirt, and it has all the proper badges where everything's supposed to be. So it's got a 44th Medical Brigade badge there. It's got the US Army badge on that side. It's got the name on that side, and then I believe, if I'm correct in remembering, no it doesn't. I thought it had a MAC-V badge on the back on the other side, but it doesn't. It's blank, but I'm not too worried about that. So yeah, basically these are original 107s. They are used, they are worn. I got them second hand from some military surplus stores separately from 2 different places. I had the shirt a while, and I recently acquired the trousers. I've been looking for them a while. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on them, and when I got them I thought I'd buy them and build them up. So that's the actual outfit, which I'm quite impressed with. It looks different from all my other kit, and it's very old school, very weathered. It does have pockets on the top up here for like the pens and the scissors and all the stuff that the nurses had. For obvious reasons, carrying that around when you're running around an airsoft is not ideal, so I haven't filled them out. Bit of a unique thing to this shirt, which is from all the pictures I've seen, and I can't really explain it, is the pockets on this OG 107 nurse's shirt are at the bottom and not at the top. From what I can see on a lot of the pictures, they were often at the top and not at the bottom. So my two conclusions are, this is either an NCO's shirt, or a private or trainee's shirt, I'm not quite sure, or it is a custom tailored shirt where whoever had the pockets at the top, she's had them sewn at the bottom from this nurse, because it's clearly a female shirt. You'd never get on this on as a male. So basically the pockets are at the bottom, whereas they're not at the top, and I can't understand that why, because I've googled it and looked into it and I cannot figure it out. So they're my two conclusions: either it was an NCO's type shirt where the pockets were at the bottom and not at the top, or it may be an experimental shirt, or someone simply removed the pockets and had them sewed at the bottom for whatever reason. So that's my conclusion on that one. So I've put a standard webbing on here. It's got an M56 Vietnam webbing. The majority of it is real. I think the butt pack and the belt's fake, and the rest of it's all genuine stuff. I acquired cheaply through eBay and got lucky. There's no in these specifically at the moment, apart from a 1911 magazine. This would have the 20 round M16 magazines in for the Car 15 prototype or the M16 normally, but they're currently on my PRC 25 radio. I've got the bandolier strap there with the majority of my magazines in them, so that's why there's nothing available to put in this. So that's basically the belt, pistol, and I will go over the next thing, which is an interesting thing, is the bag. So this is a M3 field medical bag pouch. It's got a lot, it actually has a lot of medical supplies in it. It is filled with bandages, plasters, scissors, and maybe not all area accurate because it's not genuine stuff, but it's stuff that I've actually got and used if, should I need plasters, bandages. It's all in here for when I needed it. So this is obviously a replica, but it's the same version of what was used in Vietnam. It's just the quality of it's a bit different, but without spending hundreds of pounds yet again on the real thing, I ended up buying a replica that looked similar to what it is. I've put it on the medic mannequin, and it'll go towards that kit. So I'm quite pleased with this, and it has all the right markings on it. It's in the right colour. So it's a cheap reproduction medical bag for what this is. It's not something I'm going to use personally. It's just something that's there for when she needs it, or it's just on display. So, but yeah, that's what basically this is, the M3 medical bag. So I've just draped this over the top, and it does have stuff in it. As you can see, other than the M56 magazine pouches, I've got the H harness on the back. I've got a field dressing on the shoulder up here. Again, medic, it's probably more preferable to have as much medical kit as you can carry. And on the back I have a M56 Bulk Pack. Don't know if there's anything in this other than a shit ton of BBs. No, that's all that's in that at the moment. I am missing maybe 1 or 2 water bottles from this kit. I originally took this kit to build another kit, as I often do, and I've slowly been building this one up. So the only thing that's really incomplete about this kit is the water bottles, which I'm at some point going to get. I'll put maybe 1 or 2 on. I haven't really decided yet. Other than that, this kit is actually accurate and built up the best way I can. Obviously there'll be a green t-shirt or something underneath, and the jungle boots, but I'm not going to go over them because I do that in every video, and if you watched a few of these, you've kind of gotten used to the fact that it's going to have jungle boots, it's going to have a green t-shirt or a vest, or even a white t-shirt in some occasions underneath it. So yeah, that's basically everything for the medical kit. Interesting things with them that I've learned is if you was to be a nurse in the 44th Medical Brigade, you had to volunteer. There was no draft thing for it, and women weren't drafted at the time anyway. So it was often a volunteered commitment, and unlike the Army or the Marines or whoever did get drafted or did join up, where you'd have to do at least one tour of service, which is roughly around about a year, the nurses had to do 2 years. Now I'm assuming that is for trade and qualification, because obviously as grunts that went in would, you know, infantry, Marines, whatever it is you're doing, you got out and then you'd be looking to get a job in a warehouse or a security guard or something along them lines when you get out. Obviously if you joined as an Army nurse, you can end up becoming a surgeon, a doctor, whatever, and then you've got quite a lot of vacations and training and what have you from what you've learnt through, you know, the bases in Texas, Hawaii, wherever you've been sent, and then Vietnam itself. What I'm led to believe, most of their training in Vietnam was on-the-job training, and they sort of learnt skill set through the surgeons and doctors as they were short-staffed or when people are being rushed in and out. And there were often like 60 wounded people in each billet that they had to attend to, so I can imagine it being a very hard job, and a lot of them were up for days at a time, and it was a bit of an awkward time for them, with them being predominantly men within the bases. So these are the things I've learned about them, but obviously once they left, they could then become doctors or surgeons, but a lot of them wouldn't. They'd get the job, but then they wouldn't get to put in whatever field. So if they were a surgeon, you know, they were cutting people up, stitching, a lot of that they wouldn't do in a hospital, because they might have learned to do it and done it for several hundred people within Vietnam. Once they got into civilian organisations, it was a completely different level. They'd have to start at the bottom and then progress in a certain area, even though they'd already done it. But that's the difference between the civilian world and the Army world. If you've ever been in the forces, you get used to this. It's just one of them things, so there's a lot of changes in the way things are done. So yeah, basically that's what I'm going to do for this video, which is the 44th Medical Brigade nurse / combat medic, whatever it is you want to do. Like I said, it's not reenactment level, so don't get a big OCD on the details. It's not meant for them kind of people. It's simply meant for your Airsoft community member that's wanting to get involved, and it's more as a female involvement, if anything, you know, for the wives, the girlfriends or sisters, whatever. I mean, my sister did this years ago. Before my sister joined the Army, she ended up getting involved with the Airsoft community as well, and she did a few games before. So it does appeal to certain people. It's just, you know, how you get into it and what you're into, I suppose. Like I said, I do know a few women that do Airsoft still. So, you know, it's possible and it's plausible. So that's why I thought I'd do this video. I do have other kits currently being made. I've got an ARVN, a military police, and a SEAL still slowly being built up. So we'll get around to building the kits. It's just, again, as and when I've seen them and when I've bought kits, and, you know, that various sort of thing where I'm just building up, and then I do videos as it is. So again, as I stated from some of the comments I've got, I do not get paid for these videos. I'm not using a high-end camera. I do not rehearse these videos. I am not a history expert, so some of my knowledge may be wrong or inaccurate to a certain extent, which I can only apologise for. And yeah, that's basically, you know, everything I can state from it. And the camera, again, I'm not using a £1,000 camera, so if the lighting's crap or the sound's crap or whatever and you can't hear me, this is the reason why. If you wish to send me a £2,000 camera to do these, I'm more than happy to do that. But if not, I'm going to have to do it on the phone, because I don't get paid for these. I'm just simply asked from friends to do videos of what I have. And, you know, I do it just to raise awareness for the Vietnam Airsoft community, as people I've met, you know, not just within the UK, but, you know, people I've met through Instagram, YouTube, and other people that do it in the States and the Netherlands and wherever else. They've all been really nice people to talk to that have, you know, we've got a similar interest. We might be from different countries and do things a different way. But, you know, they're all really good people to get on with, and that's kind of what I make this for. I make this for those people. You know, they're the ones that are interested. The people like me. I mean, when I started, I looked for videos the same way. I still do it now. I look for a lot of videos on Vietnam kits, reenactments, and that's where I get the ideas from and the inspirations. And then I talk about this amongst the friends that I'm in the teams with, you know, or people that are in other teams that I work with at the MilSim events. So, you know, that's what it's for. So, again, this is Bravo 1, Bravo Team Airsoft. Thank you for watching.